I f***ed up. But I think we came to a nice compromise with another one of my terrible ideas. If it fits! Look, I'm wearing a pumpkin shirt. Okay, so if you've been following along, you would know that we are well into pre-production on our short film for the month of October. And in last week's podcast, the 6 of us all sat around a table and we hashed out story ideas for what would eventually become a script. However, at that point, no one had any defined roles. We didn't know who would actually be writing it, who would be directing it, cinematographer, nothing. So Tim took a lot of initiative and started scouting locations and storyboarding some shots, and Greg went about writing a script, while the rest of us were still throwing out ideas about what the short could eventually be. I came to the conclusion fairly quickly that we were headed towards chaos, and so I said, Tim, you're the director, Greg, you're the writer. But we had already arrived at chaos. So now I had a script that was conceived by committee and written by Greg, and a director who had no real creative control over the direction of the short. And this was totally a failure on my part for getting in way too deep before we had defined roles and really clearly communicated what the process for this next short would be like. I mean, I'm not really beating myself up about it too much because we're just kind of figuring this out as we go. And so the compromise that I came up with was a good old-fashioned horror double feature. That's right, we're doing both. Now, before you rip all your hair out and tell me what a maniac I am, both of the scripts combined are still under 10 pages, and so each short will probably end up coming out around 3, maybe 4 minutes, and an 8-minute short really isn't that crazy. And honestly, it just kind of got me excited at the opportunity to take one conceit that we all came up with and see how differently you could take it. How drastically different? How drastically differently it can be interpreted? How differently it could drastically be interpreted? How it can be interpreted so different? How it can be interpreted so drastically differently? Adverbs. But this will never happen again. Brad is already working on the November short. We'll figure out who the director is, and they will work with me as the producer to shepherd it into existence. Like I said in another video that I made a few weeks ago, I'm willing to make adjustments and sacrifices based on our budget and our time constraints, but I am not willing to let the quality of these shorts drop because of miscommunication, organization, or ego. Filmmaking and the arts in general have this reputation as being this kind of traveling circus, loosely structured group of artists just going around making art. And it may help to feel that way, to have the feeling on set or while you're working that nothing is out of bounds and anything is possible, so that your creative expression can flourish. But filmmaking is and should be a highly structured endeavor. And as evidenced by this past week, when it is not, things can pretty quickly spiral out of control. Not that we get out of control. And so in the future, I think that defining our roles as individuals within the process is going to help us actually collaborate better as a group. That is it for this week. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. We are going into production for these 2 short films next week. If you want some behind the scenes, go follow If It Fits on Facebook and Instagram, or any of us. And I will see you next week.